Now, nearly 1 million school-age kids have tested positive for COVID, that in just the past month alone. And while Pfizer says its vaccine for ages 5 to 11 is effective, it still needs federal approval before being administered. And that leaves plenty of people, plenty of parents, anxious. The ping pong of activity for kids during the pandemic has been stressful, so we've invited Chimére Holmes, a licensed counselor, to address the topic with us. Good morning to you, Chimére. We appreciate it. It's been a lot, right, for young kids to handle, especially those who have been quarantined at home. That took place for so many for more than a year. How do parents, myself, others, help curb this anxiety in our kids that, so many now are back to school, but the anxiety remains?
Good morning, Sharon. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And reentry anxiety is essentially the newest mental health impact as a result of COVID-19, and it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. We have to realize that approximately 4.4 million children ages 3 to 17 have already been diagnosed with anxiety. And so reentry anxiety is just fueling the fire, if you will, adding on stress and some emotional challenges for children, whether it's anger, frustration, confusion, overstimulation, just to name a few of the feelings that a lot of children most likely are feeling. And parents can do a great deal to actually steer their children in the right direction and support them. I like to say, parent, avail thyself. Parents really need to be
Mm.
as transparent and accessible as possible, just essentially giving a listening ear and validating all of their children's emotions and letting them know that whatever they feel is okay. Taking care of their own mental health, the best way for parents to be the best versions of themselves is to actually address their own mental health needs. If things feel too chaotic or challenging, I would encourage parents to seek out mental health counseling. But parents and educators can essentially steer the boat in terms of assuring safety, constantly having that dialogue with children and students to assure them that we're taking all these precautions in schools with masks and distancing and ongoing hand washing to keep them safe. That's the number one priority, and that their feelings are valid.
Yeah, but it's important, like you said, for parents, put your mask on first, right? They tell you on the
Absolutely.
airplane, right? So get your mental health in order first. That's very important. Thank you for that. But I wonder if we tell our kids too much. You said be transparent, but with so much information swirling around as it relates to kids in COVID, how are children affected mentally when they just have so much incoming? And isn't that, well, potentially an assault on their sense of security?
Absolutely. And I think it's important for parents and educators to keep in mind that children mirror behavior. So parents and educators have to lead by example. If you're feeling anxious and overstimulated or frustrated, it's best to keep those conversations at bay, keep them behind closed doors with a spouse or a loved one, another adult. Less is more for the children because you don't want to add to an already full plate, if you will, with all of their concerns and their anxieties. And just by giving out age appropriate information, that can quell a lot of the anxiety that the children are feeling on the
Mm-hmm.
inside. I think if parents lead by example and throw in a little healthy dose of optimism, that's going to make the transition and all the concerns all the easier to bear. And leading by example, wearing their face masks indoors, adhering to the
Yeah.
CDC protocols, and also doing the diligent hand washing and just trying to keep some good spirits about them will ultimately help the children.
Yeah, and Shamir, there's this ongoing debate. Much of it doesn't seem very intelligent about whether kids should have mask mandates in schools and the like. And I wonder if kids absorbing that are really feeling certain things physically, or is it just this mental aspect that goes along with this debate? How does wearing a mask all day affect their psyche, their ability to fully focus and learn at school, or does it have no effect?
I think that we would be remiss to assume that it doesn't have any effect at all because for years a lot of students have been maskless and have gone through the school day mask free. So it's another distractor. In school, you have to focus on your grades, you're trying to interact with your peers. Socialization looks nothing like it did 18 months ago. And so factoring that in with like the routine temperature checks, and children probably find themselves asking questions: am I safe today? Am I doing all the right things? Do I have this right? So, in terms of additional stress and anxiety, I believe that the mask can play a part of that. But as long as parents at home, the community at large, the educators in the buildings are assuring them that this is the right way to keep us all safe and to keep your families and loved ones at home safe, it's something that we have to essentially go through together. We're all in this together.
So even with less life experience than adults, there are things to look for, right? Signs that our children give us that they could be experiencing anxiety. What are the signs that we should pay attention to and really hold on to? Because anxiety is real.
Absolutely. That's a great question, Sharon. Know the signs and know the symptoms. So, parents and children have to know themselves. If your baseline prior to COVID, prior to reentry, getting back to school, having to wear your mask, didn't consist of trouble sleeping, erratic behavior, irritability,
Mm.
increase in sadness, depressed mood, maybe feelings of fatigue, stomach aches, headaches, feeling down, feeling very low energy and fatigue, the chances are that the child is experiencing reentry anxiety. And this is something that a mental health professional, some sort of clinician, or even your primary care physician can assist with. So if you're experiencing things day after day, it's not just an occasional bout of symptoms, then it's time to probably reach out for some
Yeah.
professional help and support.
We only have a few seconds left, but I wonder if you ever recommend medication. You know, you're a family therapist, you're in huge demand. I sometimes think that all kids deserve a therapist and to have an outlet other than their parents that they can have a candid conversation with. But is medication the answer sometimes in serious cases of anxiety?
That's an excellent point. I think that sometimes medication coupled with talk therapy can go a long
Mm,
way. And so there's already a huge stigma around mental health and mental illness, and you throw medication in there, and a lot of people tend to get nervous.
yeah.
But talking to a clinician, sometimes it might be necessary, and that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong, essentially, or defective with the child. If they did need medication as an assistant or
Hmm.
support with the anxiety, it's just going to help them feel all the better. And for families, make this a family oriented approach. The family that goes to therapy together can survive this pandemic together. So making those conversations apparent and just useful is going to go a long way. Having those
Boy,
difficult
you're just so
conversations.
great. Yeah, I love having you on. I hope you'll come back too, because this is an important topic that it's not just the pandemic that we should be talking about a lot more, I think. Licensed counselor Chimére Holmes, and I'm sorry to say this, but I know you're in Philadelphia and I miss a cheesesteak, Chimére. I miss it so much. I wish you could
We
FedEx me, and then freeze them and shrink wrap and whatever you're going to do with the dry ice. But boy, that's some good eats. I know it's not a food segment, but whew, thank you so much for
I'll try to
providing your
help you out,
insight this
Sharon.
morning.